All right, RPG is dumb. Like, subscribe, and today we're going to go over Murder Hobo. Let's break down what murder hoboing is. You're playing a game of D&D, Rifts, whatever, Lord of the Rings. The players are like, wow, if I kill these people, I can take their stuff. And so they just murder a trader wagon, and now they're worth way more gold than you expected them to be at this level. They have way more weaponry, way more powerful armor. They have way more of everything. They've ruined your campaign. They've ruined my campaign.
What if we made a new campaign? What if we made modifications to their character?
I love it when somebody murder hobos because now it's all about the credibility of your world. Why shouldn't someone murder hobo? The classic example that I see used on Twitter all the time is the shop. Players come into the shop and they kill the guy and they take the stuff. Everything in the shop is now theirs. And people will be like, let's make the shopkeep a level 20 and that'll stop them. So already in doing that, listen, where's your game, bro? This is the best that you can do, is that the shopkeep is a max level wizard. Why is a max level wizard running a stupid shop? Max level wizards live in spires on the top of mountains that get struck by lightning as they yell incantations at the clouds. They don't sell blind spells to level scrub nobodies in Farmville fantasy world. So already your world makes no sense. He's a max level wizard now because, your party tried to kill him. That's the best that you can do. In my world, he's not a max level wizard because that doesn't make any sense. The players can just assume that if a guy's running a stupid store, he's not the max level anything, because why would he be running a store? But you know what he is? He is a pillar of the community. He led the search party that found the farmer's son when he was missing for a day and a half out in the woods. He taught the blacksmith's daughter how to read. You just killed him. You got problems now. In my world, that town is posseing up and they are coming for you. And they're coming 25, 30 strong, whatever they can muster. You're not just rolling in there and killing a member of their community and taking his scrolls and his gold and then rolling up into the mountains. But here's the thing. I have a posse of 30. What the hell do I need to just kill you for and give your character like a death in some battle? I'm not doing that. If you killed him and you're in a party of 5, I'm going to have that posse roll up to you and they're going to send a scout and he's going to tell you, you have until sundown to deliver the guy who killed that shopkeep. And if you don't, we're going to kill every single one of you. And then you let them dwell on it. Now they have a party problem. They have internal party strife. That guy killed that shopkeep and I didn't want anything to do with it. So maybe we should just hand him over. And now you've got a thing going on in your party. You got a discussion. Do we hand over a member of the party to a posse of people? If they don't, you're 30 strong. You don't need to give them a death by battle. You can roll up there and you have the numbers, so the die will be with you even if they have to be with you eventually, and you can take them all alive. You can take them alive and you can bring them all back to that community and you can hang them from a tree in town square. That's what you get for murder hoboing in my town. Just know that that's going to be the ramification. Now, if you're a GM who's like, oh, I don't want to do that, like, your world sucks. Your world is weak. Your game is weak. Your table is whack. Everything about it is lame. And no one would ever play in it for any extended period of time unless they were trying to do some online thing, so they would just suffer through the torture. Your game is weak. You need ramifications that make sense. You do that in my world, I'm probably dragging you back to town and killing your character via some sort of execution. Everybody gathered around, people pelting you in the face with tomatoes, and then cut the rope, you fall, you hang, and that's how your level 4 wizard or paladin or whatever bites the dust. There are ways to deal with murder hoboing, and that's not even unfair. That's not being like, oh, the shop keeps a level 20, because that's stupid and unfair. But they should know that the town can just come after them, assert themselves through sheer strength of number. Like, why would you just come in and just be able to kill somebody? I had a party do that one time, literally that same situation. One of them killed a shopkeep, and the only reason they didn't have a bunch of drama afterwards is because one of them, after complaining that the party was way more evil than he intended to be, flipped the open sign to close as they left, which I thought was pretty clever. That sort of meant that nobody was going to discover it for a little while. So probably the greatest bit of GMing that I have ever done was in response to murder-hoboism. Long story short, the bad guys threw some tortured poor soul out of a vehicle with an ultimatum and warning for the party. The man thrown out was nicknamed No Hands by the party because he had no hands. His hands were chopped off. Shortly thereafter, inside the walls, my evil wizard character just decided to kill him. Murder him, conjuring stones that flew point blank range, blew his head apart, caved it in, stoned him to death. He fell down, he died. And then he was back. And then he was back, and then he was back, and then he was back offering advice. No matter how many times he would die, he would always come back. That went on for 5 years. Everybody else in the party was made aware that his evil wizard character was schizophrenic. So every time No Hands appeared to him, which was pretty often, he would argue with him. He would build sidecars for him on his vehicles. He was basically a part of the character, and I became a part of that character and kind of, Agent Smithed into him, into his character by virtue of the fact that I had become his schizophrenia, because I am the GM. So I am every gust of wind, and I am every piece of schizophrenia. I am the things that are not in the player's control. So I took over a piece of his character by being the symptom of the character's schizophrenia. So when I would appear, I'd be wearing like a hood, and I'd have my hands down on my sleeves, and he would know that it was No Hands, like talking to him. The other great thing about it is that he was a really good friend of mine, and I would know when he would get annoyed with something for real. And every time he did, kind of had a underlying temper about some stuff, and every time that would come up, I would notice it, and No Hands would appear by his side. And the way that worked best is that everybody else at the table was made aware immediately that No Hands didn't exist. I didn't want them trying to solve the mystery of No Hands, even like metagaming, trying to figure out what it is, even though they could never see him. The reason that the joke worked is because the wizard in question had no idea that No Hands existed as a schizophrenic manifestation. He thought he had some sort of demonic entity ally coming to him, offering advice, offering him paths to greater power, but it was always just him. When he would roll a perception check, when it was high enough, instead of him noticing it, No Hands would be, calling attention to it, and that's how he would see it. That was my punishment to him for being an evil mage, was giving him that schizophrenia, and he didn't know about it for 5 years. Everybody else at the table was made aware, and any new player came, they got the No Hands speech from me or one of the players. The wizard was schizophrenic, and that the player didn't know. And that the key to it all was that the player not knowing is what drives the joke. The moment that the player was made aware that his wizard was schizophrenic and No Hands was just a manifestation of that, the moment he knew, the joke's over, the character's done, it doesn't make sense, it's not fun anymore. But when he didn't know and he thought that it was a tangible thing, just as his character would, and all the other characters and all the other players at the table knew to just ignore, unless he was like arguing with it, they'd be, cracking up laughing or doing whatever, but they knew that it wasn't a mystery for them to solve. It was No Hands. That is a 4-dimensional punishment for murder-hoboism, because that went on for 5 years. He wasn't made aware of the schizophrenic factor ever, and everybody else at the table was. So if you want to kill for profit, you need to be smart. You need to know that people will come after you. If you're playing Star Wars, how are you going to murder hobo? How is your GM completely incapable of doing anything about endless amounts of murder hobo? If you go around the galaxy just murdering people for their stuff, guess who gets involved? Jedi. That's just what happens. So basically, your problem isn't that you don't know how to handle murder-hoboism. Your problem is that you are too much of a coward to be an actual GM and kill players when they have it coming, even when they're killing people. So, yeah, you suck. RPG is dumb. Like and subscribe.